stood in the preparation room, her skin flickering between pale blue and dull gray. The colors betrayed her emotions, even though her face remained calm. Fear and sorrow mixed together inside her chest like a storm she could not control. "You look beautiful," her mother said, adjusting the ceremonial robe one last time. The fabric was white, symbolizing new beginnings. Thought it should have been black for mourning instead. "I don't want to do this," whispered. Her voice was so quiet that only her mother could hear. Her mother's face tightened. "None of us want this, but the treaty requires it. 20 women to 20 human men. 20 men to 20 human women. It is the price of peace." Peace. The word tasted bitter in his mouth. How could there be peace when her brother was dead, killed by human weapons during the war? She had seen the reports. Humans were violent creatures. They were tall and strong and aggressive. They did not understand gentleness or art or the quiet beauty of telepathic connection. They only understood force. And now she was being given to one of them, like a gift, like a thing. "I cannot do this," said again, her skin now flashing dark purple. Anger was rising through the fear. "You must," her father said from the doorway. His own skin was steady gray. He had learned to control his emotions after losing his son. "The Empire needs this. If the diplomatic marriages fail, the treaty fails. If the treaty fails, war begins again. More will die." Knew he was right. She hated that he was right. The ceremony was held in a large hall on New Horizon Station. The station was neutral territory, built after the war as a symbol of cooperation between species. Had never been here before. Everything smelled wrong. The air was too dry. The lights were too yellow. Even the gravity felt slightly off. She walked down the long aisle, her legs feeling like they were made of stone. On both sides people watched. Half were, their skin showing various colors of concern and sadness. The other half were human. They looked so big and solid. Their faces showed emotions in strange ways, with movements of mouths and eyes. She found it difficult to read them. At the end of the aisle, he waited. That was his name. She had been told only basic information about him. He was 28 years old. He had been a soldier. Now he worked in diplomatic services. That was all she knew. He stood straight and still, wearing a formal Earth uniform. It was dark blue with silver buttons. He was tall, like all humans seemed to be. His hair was black and cut short. His face was serious but not cruel. His eyes were dark brown. When she reached him, she expected him to grab her, to assert his dominance the way she had heard human males did. Instead, he did something unexpected. He extended his hand slowly, palm facing up. It was an offering, not a demand. He was waiting for her to choose. Stared at his hand for a long moment. Around them, the hall was silent. Finally, because she had no choice, she placed her hand in his. His skin was warm. His grip was gentle. The officiator, a neutral species called began speaking in the common trade language. Barely heard the words. She was too focused on trying not to shake. Her skin continued to flicker blue and gray, unable to settle on one emotion. When the ceremony ended, they were declared married. Bound by treaty and law, felt like a cage had closed around her heart. The reception was brief. Neither Earth nor the Empire wanted long celebrations. This was business, not joy. Ate nothing. She stood beside and accepted congratulations from diplomats who did not care about her fear. Spoke when necessary, but he did not try to make her talk. She was grateful for that at least. Finally, they were taken to their quarters. The living space was designed to be neutral, suitable for both species. There were 2 bedrooms, a shared living area, a kitchen synthesizer, and a bathroom. Everything was clean and plain. "I will take the smaller room," said. His voice was quiet and even. He spoke standard with a heavy accent, but she could understand him. "Blink to what?" "The smaller bedroom. You should have the larger one. It has better lighting. I read that prefer natural spectrum light." She did not know what to say. She had expected him to claim the best room for himself, to assert his authority as a human male. She started, then stopped. Thank you. He nodded once, then carried his single bag to the smaller room, stood in the living area, confused. This was not how she had imagined it would be. Over the next few days, she barely saw him, left early each morning for his diplomatic work. He returned late in the evening. When they were both in the quarters, he stayed in his room or worked quietly in the living area. He did not bother her. He did not demand anything from her. On the fourth day, noticed something strange. The food synthesizer had been. When she checked the settings, she found that all of her preferred meals were now in the favorites list. Someone had taken the time to input them correctly, including the proper temperature and texture settings. It had to be. That night she saw light coming from under his door. It was late, past midnight. Curiosity overcame her caution. She moved quietly to his door and listened. He was speaking softly, practicing words. Words. He was trying to learn her language properly, working on his pronunciation. She heard him repeat the same greeting phrase over and over, trying to get the tones correct. Stepped back from the door, her skin flickering gold for just a moment. Surprise. No one had ever told her that humans would try to learn, that they would make effort. She returned to her room and lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling. Her thoughts were confused. Everything she had been told about humans said they were rough and careless, that they took what they wanted without thought for others, that they were incapable of understanding anything beyond violence. But had given her the better room. He had learned her food preferences. He was studying her language late at night when he thought no one would know. Maybe, she thought, maybe the propaganda had been wrong about some things. Or maybe he was just different. She did not know which possibility scared her more. Outside her window, the stars shone cold and distant. Somewhere among them was her home world, her parents, her brother's grave, and here she was, tied to a stranger from a species she had been taught to fear. Sleep did not come easily that night. 2 weeks passed slowly on New Horizon Station, began to develop a routine, though it felt strange and uncomfortable. Each morning she would wake and find already gone. He always left a note on the kitchen counter, simple messages. Good morning, I will return at evening time. Or, there is fresh fruit in the synthesizer if you want it. She never responded to the notes. She did not know how. But she did notice things. The shared spaces were always clean when she woke up, never left his belongings scattered around. He kept everything orderly and contained to his own room. In the bathroom, his items took up only one small corner. He had left all the rest of the space for her. These small things confused her. She had expected a human to be messy and demanding, to take up all the space without thinking of her needs, but seemed to make himself smaller, quieter, less intrusive. One evening, was in the living area reading a data pad about Earth history. She was trying to understand the species she had been tied to. Came home earlier than usual. He stopped when he saw her, as if surprised to find her outside her room. I apologize, he said in his accented. I did not mean to disturb you. You are not disturbing me, replied. The words came out stiff and formal. This is your home too. He nodded slowly, then moved to the kitchen area. He programmed the synthesizer for his dinner. While he waited, he glanced at her data pad screen. Earth history, he observed. Are you finding it interesting? Hesitated. This was the longest conversation they had shared since the wedding. I am finding it complicated. Your species has much conflict in its past. Yes, agreed. His voice was sad. We do. We fight each other often. Sometimes I think that is why we are good at fighting others too. He collected his food and turned to go to his room, but then he paused. If you have questions, he said quietly, about Earth or humans, you can ask me. I will answer honestly. Then he was gone, door closing softly behind him. Stared at the empty space where he had stood. Her skin flickered between blue and gold, confusion and surprise. She had not expected him to offer answers. She had not expected him to be available. The next day was a diplomatic reception. All the married couples were required to attend. Dreaded it. She would have to be seen in public with, would have to pretend that everything was acceptable. She dressed in formal clothing, a long flowing dress that shifted colors with her movements. When she emerged from her room, was waiting in the living area. He wore his Earth diplomatic uniform. "You look beautiful," he said simply. Skin flashed bright gold. No one had called her beautiful since before the war. She did not know how to respond. At the reception, stayed close to the walls. She watched other couples. Some seemed happy. Others looked as uncomfortable as she felt. Stood beside her but not too close. He kept a respectful distance between them. A group of human diplomats approached. One of them, a large man with red hair, smiled too widely. The man said in Earth Standard language, understood it but struggled with some words. "How is married life? Your little alien wife treating you well?" Skin went dark purple. The words felt cruel, dismissive. She waited for to laugh along, to join in the mockery. Instead's face went cold. His voice was sharp like a blade. "Her name is," he said. "She is my wife, not my possession, and she deserves your respect. If you cannot give it, then stay away from us." The red-haired man looked shocked. He mumbled an apology and left quickly. The others followed. "Turn 2, I am sorry," he said quietly in. "Some people do not understand respect." Stared at him. Her skin had shifted to pale pink. She did not know what that color meant, had never felt this particular emotion before. It was warm and confusing and made her chest feel tight. "You defended me," she said. "Of course," replied. He looked confused as if he had done something obvious. "You are my wife. More than that, you are a person. No one should speak about you that way." Later that evening, they returned to their quarters, was exhausted from the social interaction. She went straight to her room but found herself unable to sleep. Her mind kept replaying the moment when had defended her, the cold anger in his voice, the way he had put himself between her and disrespect. She heard a sound from the living area. Getting up, she found sitting on the floor near the window. He had a small book in his hands and was reading by the starlight. "Cannot sleep?" he asked when he noticed her. "No," admitted. She saw the book more clearly now. It was poetry. The text was in her language. "You read our poetry." "I try," said. "My is not good enough to understand all of it, but I like trying. Your people see the universe differently than humans do. It is beautiful." Sat down across from him, not close but not far away either. "Read something," she said softly. Looked surprised but nodded. He read a poem about starlight and memory. His pronunciation was poor and he stumbled over several words, but he tried. He genuinely tried. When he finished, corrected his pronunciation gently. Then she explained what some of the metaphors meant. They sat there for over an hour, talking about poetry and language and the different ways their species understood beauty. It was the first real conversation they had ever shared. As the days continued, things began to shift. Started leaving her room more often. She would sit in the living area and work on her own projects while worked on his. They did not always talk, but the silence was no longer uncomfortable. One morning she found a small crystal on the kitchen counter. It was placed on top of one of his notes. The crystal was pale blue and caught the light in beautiful ways. The note said, "I saw this in the station market. It reminded me of your eyes. I hope you like it." Held the crystal up to the light. It split the beams into rainbow patterns that danced across the walls. It was the most thoughtful gift anyone had ever given her. Her skin turned soft gold and stayed that color for the entire day. Another time, the station had a mechanical problem. An alarm blared suddenly, loud and piercing. The sound was exactly like the war alarms remembered. the ones that meant humans were attacking. She felt herself freeze. Her breath stopped. Her skin went white, then gray, then flickered rapidly between colors. Panic seized her body and mind. Found her curled up in the corner of the living area. She could not move, could not think. The alarm had stopped, but she could still hear it in her mind. He did not touch her. He did not try to force her to snap out of it. Instead, he sat down a few feet away and began talking. His voice was soft and steady. He talked about Earth, about rain falling on leaves, about oceans that stretched beyond sight, about his sister who could not cook and always burned dinner, about boring meetings and paperwork and how the coffee in the station cafeteria was terrible. Slowly, so slowly, his breathing returned to normal. The panic faded. His calm voice had anchored her back to the present. When she finally looked up, was watching her with concern. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. The alarm whispered. It sounded like during the war. Understanding crossed his face. "I am sorry, that must have been frightening." "You stayed," said. "You did not leave me." "Of course not," said. "May I get you some water?" Even now, even when she was vulnerable, he asked permission. He did not assume. He did not take. Nodded. When he brought her the water, their fingers touched briefly. She did not pull away. That night, lying in bed, admitted something to herself that she had been avoiding. She was beginning to trust him. This human who was supposed to be her enemy. This man who showed her gentleness she had not expected. It terrified her more than anything else. 1 month into their marriage, and received new orders. They were being sent on a diplomatic mission to a colony world called Prime. The colony was home to multiple species and was seen as a success story of integration. Their job was to observe and report back to the Coalition Council. Was nervous about traveling alone with. Being in their quarters on the station was one thing. Being on a ship together, working together, was different. But she also found herself curious, maybe even a little bit excited. The journey to Prime took 3 days. Their shuttle was small with only basic sleeping quarters and a tiny common area. There was nowhere to hide or avoid each other. On the first night, made dinner using the ship's synthesizer. He had programmed it with both and human meals. He served her food first, then took his own. "Thank you," said. The words came easier now than they had before. "You are welcome," replied. He ate quietly, not watching her or making her feel observed. After dinner, decided to be brave. "Tell me about your sister," she said. "You mentioned her before." His face softened. "Is 2 years younger than me. She is smart and stubborn and terrible at cooking. When our parents died, I raised her. I joined the military to pay for her education." "That must have been hard," said. "It was," admitted. "But she was worth it. She is a teacher now on Earth. She works with children." "Do you miss her?" "Every day." Looked down at his hands. "She did not want me to accept this marriage assignment. She thought it was dangerous, but I wanted to do something that mattered, something that could prevent more war." Felt something twist in her chest. "I had a brother," she said quietly. It was the first time she had spoken about him too. His name was Minu. He was killed in the war by human weapons. His face went pale. I am so sorry." "I blamed all humans," continued. Her skin flickered gray. "I thought you were all violent and cruel. I thought marrying you would be a nightmare." "And now?" asked softly. Looked at him, really looked at him. At his kind eyes and gentle hands and the way he always tried so hard to make her comfortable. "Now I think maybe I was wrong. About some things." They sat in silence for a while. It was not an uncomfortable silence. It was the silence of two people beginning to understand each other. When they arrived at Prime, the colony seemed peaceful. Markets were busy with different species trading goods. Children of various species played together in parks. Everything looked perfect. But on their second day there, something went wrong. And were visiting a community center when alarms began blaring. Not like the station alarm that had triggered panic. These were emergency sirens. People began screaming and running. "What is happening?" asked, her skin flashing white with fear. His entire body changed. His military training took over. "Stay close to me," he said. His voice was calm but firm. A security officer ran past them. "Hostages," the officer shouted. "Terrorists in the education building. They have children." His face went hard. Without thinking, he started running toward the education building. Ran after him. "What are you doing?" she called. "Those are children," said. "I have to help." They reached the building as security forces were setting up a perimeter. The leader, a tall alien with 4 arms, was coordinating his team. "I am Earth Diplomatic Corps," said, showing his identification. "I have military tactical training. How can I help?" The security leader looked relieved. "The terrorists are in the main classroom. They have about 20 children and 2 teachers. They are demanding that all mixed-species families leave the colony." "They are extremists," said, understanding. "They oppose integration." "We cannot just attack," said, his mind working. "The children could be hurt. We need another way." Felt something click in her mind. "I can help," she said. I have telepathy. If I can get close enough, I might be able to sense their emotions, understand what they really want." Looked at her with surprise and respect. "That could work, but it is dangerous." "So is doing nothing," replied. Her skin had shifted to steady blue. She was afraid, but she was also determined. Together, they formed a plan. Would use her telepathy to read the terrorists' emotional states. Would use his tactical knowledge to position security forces. They would try to resolve this without violence. It took 2 hours of careful work. Stretched her telepathic senses, pushing through her fear. She felt the terrorists' emotions. Anger, yes, but also fear and desperation. They were not evil people. They were scared people who had been fed lies about integration. "They are afraid," told and the security leader. "They think mixed-species families will destroy their culture. They think their children will be forgotten." "Then we show them they are wrong," said. He had an idea. They brought out several mixed-species families who lived on the colony, parents and children of different species. These families spoke to the terrorists through communication devices. They shared their stories, how they kept their cultures alive, how their children learned multiple languages and traditions, how love did not erase identity. Felt the emotions inside the building shift. The hard anger began to soften. Doubt crept in. Never suggested a violent solution. He always looked for the peaceful path. He protected the children by preventing bloodshed, not by causing it. Finally, after hours of negotiation, the terrorists surrendered. The children were freed. No one was hurt. As security took the terrorists away, one of them looked at and, "You are married?" he asked. "Human and—" "Yes," said. "Does he treat you well?" the terrorist asked, as if he could not believe it. Looked at this man who had charged toward danger to save children, who had chosen peace over violence, who had respected her telepathic abilities instead of fearing them. "He treats me better than I ever imagined possible," she said. That night back in their shuttle quarters could not sleep. The day had been intense. She kept seeing his face when he heard about the children in danger. The immediate decision to help. No hesitation. She got up and went to the common area. Was there, sitting by the window and looking at the stars. "Cannot sleep either?" he asked. "No," said. She sat down next to him, closer than she had ever sat before. "Today was difficult." "You were brave," said. "Using your telepathy like that, I know it must have been hard." "You were brave too," replied. "You could have let security handle it, but you helped. You made sure no one got hurt." "I was a soldier," said quietly. "I have seen what violence does, to everyone. I never want to cause that again if I can avoid it." Felt something break inside her, a wall she had been holding up for so long. "During the crisis," she said, When you were working to save those children, I was terrified, not of the terrorists, of losing you. Turned to look at her. I know what your people think of my people, continued. Her skin was flickering multiple colors. I know what my people think of yours, but when I almost lost you today, I realized something. I do not care what our species think. I care about you. I care about you too, said softly. I have for weeks now. I did not know if you would ever feel the same. Reached out slowly, she touched his hand. His skin was warm and his fingers were gentle. I felt your emotions today, she admitted. When my shields were down during the crisis, I felt what you feel. What did you feel? Asked. Loneliness, said, and guilt about the war and hope, so much hope, hope that we could build something real. We can, said. He turned his hand and held hers properly. If you want to. Looked at their joined hands, human and once enemies, now something more. I want to, she whispered. For the first time since her brother died, felt her skin turn warm gold, not flickering, not uncertain, steady and bright, the color of joy. Anne, who had studied her people and their ways, knew exactly what that meant. 3 months into their marriage, everything had changed. No longer feared, she looked forward to seeing him each day. Their quarters had transformed from a prison into a home. They had developed new routines together. In the evenings would teach meditation techniques. He would sit across from her, trying to quiet his busy human mind. Sometimes he succeeded. Sometimes he fell asleep and would smile at how peaceful he looked. Taught her about earth music. He had a collection of old songs from different cultures. They would listen together, and he would tell her the stories behind the music. Found herself loving the sad songs most. They reminded her that all species understood loss and longing. Small touches became natural between them. Hands brushing when they passed food. Sitting close together while watching news broadcasts. Would rest his hand on her shoulder when they walked together in the station corridors. Skin would glow soft pink whenever he touched her. She did not try to hide it anymore. But not everyone was happy about their growing closeness. One day, received a message from the diplomatic office. 3 older diplomats arrived at her quarters. Their skin was stern gray and blue. We need to speak with you, the lead diplomat said. His name was Alone. Who had been in the living area, stood up. I will go for a walk, he said quietly. He looked at with concern. She nodded to show she would be okay. Once was gone, sat down across from. The other 2 diplomats stood behind him like guards. We have been watching you, said. You spend too much time with the human. You smile at him. Your skin shows affection colors. This is inappropriate. Felt anger rise in her chest. He is my husband. The treaty made it so. The treaty required marriage, not love, said sharply. You are meant to maintain professional distance, to represent dignity. Instead, you act like a young fool with her first attachment. I am not acting like anything, said. Her skin flashed dark purple. I am simply living with the man I was bound to. What did you expect me to do? Hate him forever? We expected you to remember who you are, replied. Your brother died fighting humans. Have you forgotten him? The words hit like a physical blow. Her skin went white. How dare you? I will never forget Minu. Never. Then why do you disgrace his memory by loving his killer's kind? Stood up shaking. Never killed anyone in the war. He was a soldier, yes, but he carried wounded off battlefields. He saved lives. And even if he had fought, my brother would not want me to live in hatred. He was better than that. I am trying to be better too. The diplomats left shortly after, but their words stayed with like poison. That evening, when returned, he found her sitting in the dark. He said softly, "What happened?" She told him everything, about the diplomats and their warnings, about them using Minu's memory as a weapon. By the time she finished, tears were running down her face. Rarely cried, but grief was grief in any species. Sat beside her. I am sorry, he said. I am sorry that loving me causes you pain. It is not your fault, said. They are afraid of change, afraid that if we succeed, it means everything they believed about humans was wrong. Maybe I should request a transfer, suggested quietly. Maybe this would be easier for you if I was not here. Grabbed his hand. No, do not leave, please. But your people. My people do not get to decide who I care about, said firmly. Her skin shifted to bright gold. I choose you, I choose this, whatever comes. But more opposition was coming. On Earth, nationalist media began running stories about the diplomatic marriages. They showed pictures of and together. The headlines were cruel. Earth men enslaved by alien wives and has forgotten his loyalty. Supervisors called him in for a meeting. They questioned his judgment, suggested he was becoming too involved with his assignment. When he defended himself, they put a formal note in his file. It would hurt his career advancement. Learned about it when she found sitting at his desk, staring at the negative evaluation on his data pad. They think I have failed, he said quietly, because I care about you. This is wrong, said. She felt fury building in her chest. You have done nothing wrong. I chose my heart over my career, said. Maybe they are right. Maybe I have become compromised. You chose to be human, said. To feel and care and love. That is not compromise, that is courage. Despite the opposition, they continued. They attended diplomatic functions together, holding their heads high. When others whispered, they ignored it. When some species refused to speak with them, they spoke with each other. One day, Sister came to visit New Horizon Station, was terrified to meet her. What if hated her? What if she blamed for putting his career at risk? Was shorter than, with the same dark eyes but longer hair. She looked at with cold evaluation when they first met. So you are the alien my brother married, said in Earth standard language. Yes, replied in the same language. Her accent was heavy but understandable. I am. He talks about you constantly, said. In every message, every call, this, that. It is annoying. Did not know what to say. Her skin flickered uncertain colors. Then smiled slightly. But I have never heard him so happy, not since before our parents died, so I guess you cannot be all bad. Over dinner that evening asked many questions, about culture, about her family, about her brother who died. When spoke about Minu's eyes became soft with understanding. I would have been lost without after our parents died, said. Losing a sibling or a parent or a child, it changes you forever, makes you understand that life is short and precious. Yes, agreed quietly, it does. My brother is a good man, said, but he carries guilt like stones in his pockets, guilt about the war, about the people who died, about leaving me to take this assignment. If you care about him, help him put those stones down. I will try, promised. Later pulled aside privately. He loves you, she said simply. I can see it in everything he does, the way he looks at you, the way he talks about you. I have never seen him love anyone like this. Skin glowed soft pink. I love him too, she admitted. It was the first time she had said the words out loud. Good, said, because if you hurt him, I will find a way to hurt you back. I do not care if you are an alien. Actually laughed, I like you. I suppose you are acceptable for a sister-in-law, replied with a small smile. That night, After had returned to her temporary quarters and stood on their balcony looking at the stars. The station's night cycle had begun, dimming the lights. Your sister is protective, said. She always has been, replied. Even though I am the older one, did she threaten you? Yes, said smiling. I appreciated it. Laughed, then his face became serious. I need to tell you something. My supervisor has suggested that I request a dissolution of our marriage, that it would be better for both of our careers. Skin flashed between white and purple, fear and anger. What did you say? I said no, replied. He took her hands in his. I said that some things matter more than careers, that you matter more. I love you, he said. The words hung in the air between them, precious and fragile. I know we were forced together. I know this was supposed to be just politics, but you have become my whole world. You are the first person I think about when I wake up, the last before I sleep. I love you. Skin bloomed into colors she had never shown before, bright gold and silver and white all swirling together. In culture, these colors meant soul-deep love, the kind of love that lasted lifetimes. I love you too, she whispered. I fought it, I was so afraid, but I love you so much it terrifies me. He pulled her close. She rested her head against his chest and heard his heartbeat, steady and strong and real. Whatever comes, said softly, we face it together. Together, agreed. Above them the stars watched, and in that moment nothing else mattered. 6 months into their marriage and had built a life together. It was not the life either of them had expected, but it was theirs. They were happy. They were in love, and that made them dangerous to those who wanted the integration program to fail. The warning signs started small. Anonymous messages sent to diplomatic couples, threats posted on communication networks, protests outside the station. Groups from multiple species, all united by fear of change, were growing louder. Then discovered something that changed everything. He was working late at the diplomatic offices, analyzing trade reports, when he noticed something strange in the data. Supply shipments that did not make sense. Equipment being moved to unauthorized locations. When he dug deeper, following the pattern, what he found made his blood run cold. Someone was smuggling weapons onto New Horizon Station. He immediately brought the information too. She looked at the data on his pad, her skin flickering white with fear. This is enough firepower to destroy half the station, she said. I know, replied. I think someone is planning an attack to destroy the integration program permanently. They took the information to the Coalition Security Council, but when they arrived, they were met with skepticism and suspicion. You two have been flagged as potentially compromised, the security chief said. He was a tall, insect-like species with multiple eyes. 2, emotionally involved with each other. This could be false information designed to create panic. It is not false, insisted. I have traced the supply chains, cross-referenced the authorization codes. This is real. Or it is what you want to see, another council member said. We have reports that you and your wife have faced pressure from your respective governments. Perhaps you are trying to create a crisis to gain sympathy. Felt rage building in her chest. People could die, she said, her skin flashing dark purple, and you are worried about our emotions. We cannot act on unverified intelligence from unreliable sources, the security chief said coldly. You are both dismissed. Outside the council chambers, and looked at each other with fear and determination. They will not listen, said. Then we find another way, replied. They spent the next 3 days investigating on their own. They contacted other diplomatic couples quietly, asking questions. What they discovered was terrifying. A coalition of extremists from 7 different species had formed. They planned to detonate explosives in the station's central hub during the upcoming Unity celebration, when all the diplomatic couples would be gathered. The extremists wanted to kill the symbols of integration, to show that mixing species was dangerous and doomed to fail. And we're not the only ones who had noticed strange patterns. 3 other diplomatic couples had seen similar warning signs, but had also been dismissed as unreliable. They do not trust us because we love each other, said a human woman married to an alien male named. They think love makes us blind. So we prove them wrong, said firmly. We work together, we stop this ourselves. The mixed species couples formed a secret team. They pooled their knowledge and skills, used her telepathy to sense where the weapons were hidden, used his military tactical training to plan their approach. Others contributed their own unique abilities. The night before the Unity celebration, they moved. Splitting into teams, they infiltrated the storage areas where the weapons were hidden. They worked silently and efficiently, but they were discovered. Alarms began to sound. Security forces arrived, but they were focused on stopping the diplomatic couples, not the real terrorists. In the chaos, the extremists moved up their timeline. They activated the explosives early. Saw the timer counting down. 6 minutes. The explosives were in a location that would collapse the station's main support structure. Thousands would die. "We need to evacuate," shouted. "There is not enough time," said. His mind was racing, calculating. "We have to disable it manually." "That is suicide," said. "You would have to get right next to it." "Then I get right next to it," said. He looked at. "Get everyone away from this section, now." "No," said. Her skin was bright white, showing pure terror. "I will not leave you." "Please." "We work together," she interrupted. "Always together, that is what we promised." There was no time to argue. They ran toward the explosives while the others evacuated civilians. The bomb was sophisticated, designed by someone with advanced technical knowledge, but had dismantled bombs before during the war. His hands were steady as he worked. Stood beside him, using her telepathy to sense the emotional signatures of anyone approaching. She warned him of threats, allowed him to focus completely on the device. 3 minutes left. His fingers flew over the wiring, sweat dripped down his face. One wrong move would kill them both instantly. Said softly, "If we do not survive this, I want you to know that you gave me the best 6 months of my life." "We are going to survive," said firmly. "I am not losing you, not now, not ever." 2 minutes. He found the primary trigger circuit. Carefully, so carefully, he began to disconnect it. 1 minute, the secondary activated, a backup timer. 30 seconds, made his choice. He ripped out 3 wires simultaneously, trusting his instincts, trusting his training. The timer stopped, 15 seconds remaining. They had done it. Threw her arms around. Both of them were shaking. Around them, security forces finally arrived, along with the other diplomatic couples who had subdued the extremists. But the crisis was not over. Everything was being broadcast. The station's security cameras had captured it all, and risking their lives together. The other mixed couples working as teams, the extremists who had been willing to murder thousands. The footage spread across the entire coalition. Within hours, billions of beings had seen it. They saw skin flare bright white with terror when approached the bomb. They saw her stay with him anyway. They saw steady hands and calm voice as he worked. They saw how the couples protected each other, trusted each other, loved each other. The emotional response was massive. Species who had been skeptical about integration began to change their minds. How could love be wrong when these people were willing to die for each other? 3 days later, and were called before the Coalition Council. This time, it was not for punishment, it was for recognition. "You saved thousands of lives," the council leader said. "You proved that unity between species is not just possible but powerful. We were wrong to doubt you." Both Earth and the Empire sent official apologies. The diplomatic marriage program was not only continued but expanded. Other species wanted to join. His career, which had been in danger, was restored and advanced. Was offered a position as a senior cultural liaison. Together, they were asked to become official ambassadors for human relations. But the most meaningful moment came later, in private. His parents contacted her from the... They appeared on the communication screen, their skin showing mixed emotions. "We watched the footage," her father said. "We saw how he stayed calm, how he protected you, how you protected him." "He is a good man," her mother added quietly. "We were wrong about humans, about him specifically. If your brother could see this, he would approve. He would want you to be happy." Cried, held her hand through the entire conversation. Later received a message from, "I told you that you were a good man. Now the whole galaxy knows it too. I am proud of you, big brother." 6 months later and stood in the same ceremonial hall where they had first been married. But this time, everything was different. This time, they were renewing their vows by choice. Wore traditional robes, but in colors she had chosen herself. Her skin was radiant gold and silver, the colors of eternal bonding and joy. Wore a mixture of earth and ceremonial clothing, a symbol of their merged lives. Around them, their families watched, sat with parents, all of them smiling. Other diplomatic couples attended as witnesses. The hall was filled with multiple species, all there to celebrate love across boundaries. When it was time for vows, spoke first. His was perfect now, learned through months of practice and devotion. I feared I would never be worthy of trust after the war, he said. You taught me that redemption is possible. You taught me that love begins with gentleness. You taught me that home is not a place but a person. You are my home. Responded in Korean, which she had been learning from. I feared humans knew only violence. You showed me that the strongest hearts are the kindest ones. You showed me that courage means choosing peace. You showed me that love can heal even the deepest wounds. You are my heart. They joined hands without hesitation. No fear, no doubt, only love. The officiator, the same who had married them the first time, smiled. 6 months ago, I married 2 strangers. Today, I celebrate 2 souls who chose each other freely. May your love be a light in the darkness for all who witness it. After the ceremony at the reception and danced. They mixed human and dance styles, creating something entirely new. Around them, others joined. Human with Earth colonists. Species mixing and merging on the dance floor, all barriers falling away. The diplomat who had once criticized approached them. His skin was soft blue, showing regret. I was wrong, he said simply. About everything, will you forgive me? Of course, replied. Her skin was too bright with happiness to hold grudges. As the celebration continued and slipped away to their balcony, they stood together, looking at the stars, his arm around her waist, her head resting on his shoulder. We did it, said softly. We changed things. No, replied, kissing her forehead gently. We just showed people what was always possible, that love is stronger than fear, that understanding is stronger than hatred, that we are all more alike than we are different. Do you think others will follow our path? Asked. I know they will, said. We are proof that it works, that peace is not just the absence of war but the presence of love. Turned in his arms and kissed him. Her skin glowed like the stars above them. In that moment she knew that everything, all the fear, all the pain, all the opposition, had been worth it. She had been forced to marry a human she feared, but that human had shown her gentleness instead of violence, patience instead of force, love instead of domination. And in return, she had given him her heart freely. They were the future, not because they were perfect, but because they had chosen each other despite every reason not to. They had chosen love over fear, unity over division, hope over despair. And across the galaxy, millions of others were making the same choice. The stars shone above them, ancient and eternal, and below them something new was being born, something beautiful and strange and full of infinite possibility. A universe where differences were celebrated, where love crossed all boundaries, where humanity meant more than just one species. It meant all of them together.